Right, so officially welcome everyone to the session. Nice to see you again, Yat, for first time in a month, I think. So welcome back, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of you. So yeah, I think to start with, Sally, you're going to guide us through the through your peace prayer, just to kind of settle our energy, get us into a nice open receptive state to do this work. So if you can do that for a few minutes, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, so if you just want to sit quietly with the words, you don't need to repeat them, you can just listen to them. Peace that I am ready to let go and release all resistance to peace, oneness, joy, and freedom. I release all resistance to letting go of illusions and being fully aware of the truth that I am. I release and let go of all resistances in my mind that prevent me understanding and embracing the truth with ease and grace. I release this from my energy now, in all forms, on all levels, at all points in time. I'm ready to let go and release all resistance to peace, to oneness, joy, and freedom. I release all resistance to letting go of illusions and being fully aware of the truth that I am. I release and let go of all resistances in my mind that prevent me understanding and embracing the truth with ease and grace. I release this from my energy now, in all forms, on all levels, at all points in time. I am ready to fully let go and release all resistance to peace, to oneness, joy, and freedom. I release all resistance to letting go of illusions and being fully aware of the truth that I am. I release and let go of all resistances in my mind that prevent me understanding and embracing the truth with ease and grace. I release this from the energy now, in all forms, on all levels, at all points in time. I welcome in infinite miracles. I allow the truth to awaken within me. I embrace the peace that I am. I welcome in infinite miracles. I allow the truth to awaken within me now. I embrace the peace that I am. Deep breath and silence.
Okay, thank you. That was lovely. Nice little settling into just a place of peace. And then in that awareness, you get insights and downloads and things coming through. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's have a look. Okay. And it says she'll be a silent witness. Great. That's good practice, I know. Be a nice change, because you normally participate really well. So just observe. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Let me know when you can see that.
Yeah.
Expand it a little bit. So I think, Sally, if you can read the quote for us, and then I'm just going to ask you to read these few paragraphs about flow and Wu Wei and the Tao Te Ching and how it all ties together.
Okay.
We'll have a little chat about it. So if you can read your...
Flow means being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away. Time flies. Every action, movement, and thought flows inevitably from the previous one, like playing jazz.
Oh, interesting. So you made follows into flows, but actually they're very closely related, aren't they? Follows and flows. You just take out two letters, and the one becomes the other. Which is what it's all about. It just, one thing leads to another, and it's effortless. So let's ask Yad if you can read those first couple of paragraphs. Can you read while you're knitting?
No, I can't see it. I've got on my iPad, and there's no way I can see that. I can't read it, okay. Even with my glasses on. Heidi, sorry.
Okay.
Excuses.
Sally, you'll have to.
I can't read it.
You'll have to do the honors.
Okay. Today's quote is a lovely description of what the flow state is by the man who coined the term, psychologist. No, I don't know how to repeat that. How do you say that?
Okay, that's a tongue twister. His name is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He was a Hungarian who spent a lot of his career in the US, and he coined this term to describe the state in modern psychological terms. It's actually nothing new, as I go on to explain, but to put it into a psychological framework, it's now become part of modern psychology because of his work and contribution, even though it's a very ancient concept. Yeah, anyone can carry on with the next paragraph.
But flow is not actually a new concept at all. How do you say that? Laozi? No?
Laozi, yeah, Laozi.
Laozi, the great Chinese sage who lived 25 centuries ago, based his philosophy that has come to be called Taoism or Daoism, principally on the idea of the flow of life that should not be resisted, but rather surrendered to, if one wants to experience happiness and peace.
Yeah, so it's actually the reason they changed the spelling. It's actually a D, not a T. So Dao, it's the Dao, is how you say it. Daoism, the Dao or Daoism, which was really just the Chinese version of this perennial philosophy that we're studying in Course in Miracles. The Tao refers to the one, to the absolute, infinite loving presence that Yeshua calls God, and then how it interacts in this world. So what's interesting with Daoism is there's quite a focus on how this plays out in this world, and that's what Wu Wei is about. So do you want to continue with the next paragraph?
He called this flow of life Wu Wei, and wrote the Tao Te Ching, to explain how it's too many words to work out. To explain how Wu Wei is really just an expression of the Tao or Dao. And no, you don't say Dao. How do you say it?
Dao. The Dao. So say it like you'd say the Dow Jones Index. Dao, D-O-W.
Okay.
Just say it like that, because that's how it's said. I'm not quite sure why they don't spell it that way, but that's the Dao.
Okay, and how the two work together to bring about harmonious action and miraculous results. In Chinese, Wu Wei literally means in exertion, inaction, or effortless action. It sounds like a pleasant invitation to relax, or worse, become lazy or apathetic. Yet this concept is key to the noblest kind of action according to the philosophy of Daoism, and is at the heart of what it means to follow the Dao or the Way.
Okay, just pause it there. So any thoughts on that?
Inexertion sounds nice. It's kind of what I've been contemplating today, that non-doing state. It's lovely.
So this is the art of Wu Wei. It's to do in the world, but not feel like you do it. So you don't have the stressing and straining and striving of the ego program going on. It's effortless action. It's coming through you. So you're not the doer. So this leads you to a state of letting go of the ego, because you start to realize in Wu Wei, or flow, as Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called it, that you are not the doer, that there really is no doer. There is no individual doer. It's not a person who's doing this. It's a flow of energy, a flow of presence, really. Because we talk about energy, it translates into energy in this world. But it's this presence, the Tao, that's what they call it, whatever you want to call that presence. The presence of God, of love, of pure formlessness. It's a presence that's coming through you and is now guiding your words and your actions in this world. And it is doing it through you. So you become the instrument, the vessel. You are done through. You're not the doer. And so this is a big part of undoing the ego, because one of the ego's favorite games is to pretend that you're the doer. And you're doing it, and you're in control, and you have to take action to get results, and that very much binds you into time. It's always trying to get you onto this timeline of consciousness, which I'm going to just share with you now. The ego is always trying to root you onto the one and get you to identify with the character that's doing. You're doing rather than being. And the beingness, what Laozi called the Tao, is this: God, love, eternity, pure formless awareness, knowledge, the unchanging, the changeless, that you can always go to and allow that presence to come into form and guide you in form. This is the art of it. This is why this is an art. I call it the art of letting go, because you're still going to do things, but you're not the doer, and you're not doing it from the egoic consciousness. You're not doing it from the sense of being a separate self anymore, who's having to do this in order to really, if you're honest, just perpetuate your separate self. That's why the ego is doing anything, just to perpetuate its identity. And it pretends that these goals on the timeline are important, because that perpetuates the sense of being a separate self, stuck in time with the past and the future, and having to do various things. So flow, or Wu Wei, takes you out of that and into the flow that's coming from this timeless presence that's now guiding you in your life. So you take action, but the action is guided action, and you don't have a sense of you personally doing it. You're not really responsible for the outcomes. So it's very much present oriented. Yes, I'm doing it right now because it feels like the right thing to do. That's all you can really say. It just feels right. It feels good. I'm in the flow, and I do it in that state of mind, which is not outcome oriented. It's completely in the now and process oriented. It's just what's happening now. And in that state, the outcome of your actions, paradoxically, is much higher quality, much more effective than if you do it in a state of mind where you know outcome oriented, saying, "Oh, well, I'm only doing this because I want the end result." That's the ego's consciousness. So it's very much about being in the now and being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. That's the essence of Wu Wei, or flow. The ego can never do that. The ego, being the belief in separation, says no. It's laced with desire and fear, which the ego. And so every action now has a fear component. So I don't get the outcome that I want, then I'm going to be disappointed. So there's an element of fear in whatever you're doing, and that's quite stressful. That takes the mind out of its natural alignment with presence, oneness, and into identification with it at the same time. So this idea of Wu Wei is important, and a very important part of undoing the ego, being in the flow, in the moment, because we're going to be acting in this world, unless you have a path where you just sit and be. That is a path, but for most people, we're acting continuously. So you need to act in accordance with this principle, surrendered action of I'm not the doer, I'm not self-invested in my action. I'm simply allowing the action to come through me spontaneously, moment by moment by moment, and being guided by this deeper presence. And then our actions are truly creative and truly value adding. People feel that this presence is coming through us, and then we bring that presence through our words and actions into the world. And we become the miracle. In Course in Miracles terms, we become the miracle workers who show people that this is the way. Jesus even says, Yeshua said, in the Bible, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to the Father, as he termed it, is through me. Well, that's not that dissimilar from this language. The way, it was called. The Tao is the way. So there's a way to live your life based on this presence. So all of these different, spiritual teachings and paths, in the end, point us to one way. However you go about it, and that's the interesting thing. Is the more you study these different teachings, the more you see, there is really only one way, and they're all pointing to the same way with different language, different terminology, but the similarities are so so prevalent that the differences just fade away. And you go, well, the Tao is God, is Nirvana, is heaven, is the kingdom of heaven. It's all pointing to in the same direction. These different teachers at different times in history and different cultures and languages just use different terms, but they're talking about the same thing. And then you connect the dots and you go, okay, well, the Tao is God, is love, is pure formless awareness of perfect love. And so I can absolutely learn from that teaching. It's not like a foreign teaching I need to be scared of. It's just saying the same thing in a different way. And it just might give me an insight that is really useful. Which is why I include these ideas from other teachings in these emails. Okay, so where were we? I think we were at in Chinese. Any questions on any of that or comments on that so far?
No.
I think you've actually read this one. In exertion, inaction, or effortless action. So it's doing, but you're not the doer. There's a doing element to it, which is the yang in Daoism. There's a doing element, but the yin element, the passive, oneness that underlies all life, that's actually in charge. That's actually guiding it all. So you're doing, but you're not the doer. The Tao is the doer. The Tao is doing it through you. Well, that's very, very similar to what Yeshua's teaching, isn't it? He's saying, well, you're not really the doer, you're the miracle worker, and you allow this presence of love, God or love, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, to come through you and guide your thoughts, words, and actions in a miraculous way. So the miracles in Course in Miracles terminology are really the same as Wu Wei in Daoism, and really the same as flow in modern psychological terms. They're all pointing to the same thing, just with different terms. Okay, Sally, do you want to read just a bit about? I guess that's the bonus video, which is worth listening to. It's only 47 minutes, and it talks about the concept of flow. It talks about ancient philosophy of Wu Wei and Daoism. It talks about martial arts and how that integrates. It talks about yin and yang, and some very interesting stuff, which you'll relate to the course. I think that's the interesting thing. So when you listen to these teachings from other paths, listen with the mind of, okay, well how is Yeshua saying the same thing in different language? And when you do that, then you connect the dots and you go, well, actually it's all the same. this is actually a universal teaching, just using some different language here. So flow is miracles, is Wu Wei. Yin and yang, well, non-doing and doing. Yin's oneness, yin's the truth, and yang is the ego. So that's one way of looking at it. And saying, well, ultimately move beyond the duality of yin and yang into perfect yin. There's only one presence. The yang in our world can be useful because we're still doing, but it's the doing that's now inspired by the beingness. So yin is beingness, yang is action and doing, but yang needs to be guided by yin. Otherwise, it becomes out of balance. And we see that in our world because we have a
You're breaking up a bit.
world dominated by yang energy in the West, anyway. And sorry, I'm on a Wi-Fi network. So I'm not plugged into a router, which I normally do. So the yin and the yang ultimately collapse into oneness, and you work with the duality, but to merge your mind into non-duality ultimately, which is what the course is doing. So we'll work with the construct that you're in a time and space, and work with miracles and perception, and these apparent. Apparently you're in time and space, apparently there's duality, but you're working to correct that and bring your mind into perfect oneness, which would be the Tao in this teaching. The Tao is the source, the Tao is perfect oneness, and ultimately the Tao is one. Yin and yang collapse in the Tao into perfect oneness. That's the non-dual nature. So that's how you can look at this and just see it's another pointer into the ultimate one truth that underlies all of these ancient teachings. Okay, so I'll leave you to listen to that.
Lost you.
And less.
Can't hear you.
Sally, can you hear me?
Yeah, this moment I can, yeah. You keep coming and going.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Shall I just
Sorry
carry
about
on?
that. I'm just carry on reading from If This Philosophy Sounds Familiar.
If this philosophy sounds familiar, it's because the relationship between what Jeshua calls God or love in A Course in Miracles, and the expressions or extensions of God or love in this world, which he calls miracles, is one of the key themes in A Course in Miracles. To summarize this teaching, we were created or extended by God or love, and so pure formless awareness of this perfect love is our true state of mind. But in our seemingly separate state of living in a body in this world, we can still allow our true creative source to flow through us when we extend love through our words and actions. This creative flow of love outwards through us is the essence of the flow state. Another phrase for which Jesus uses in the Course in Miracles is being miracle-minded.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
Oh, I didn't realize that was what miracle-minded was. Flow state. It makes sense. It made sense when I read it. Okay.
Yeah, so that these are just different pointers. The words are pointers to the same underlying state. Being miracle-minded is simply being in a flow state. He's not saying miracles are not phenomenal acts of manifestation. We talked about this yesterday. Yet, it's not, I want something to manifest in the world, and I'm outcome oriented. It's a shift in your mindset and your perception, and you stay in that state, miracle time, and then you allow these so-called miracles, external miracles, to flow through you in the external world. So thoughts lead to actions, behavior, outcomes, those then, on the level of form, people might say, oh, well, that's a miracle. But actually, the real miracle is the miracle mindedness, is the shift in your mindset, which is really what Wu Wei is saying. Wu Wei Daoism, they're saying, we'll get in tune with the Tao. It starts internally, and then the action flows from the beingness. Don't do it the other way around. In our Western culture, we go, no, I want an outcome, and I'm letting the outcome that I want now drive me, and that's what's driving you forward. And that then disconnects you from the Tao. That disconnects you from oneness, because that's not now inspiring the action. You are motivated by the desire for a certain outcome in the world, which breaks the flow, and that creates resistance. It creates stress. It creates fear, desire. All kinds of very undesirable consequences come when you invert being and doing. Because that's really what we've done in our culture. We've inverted being and doing. We've gone doing as primary, and being is like an afterthought. Okay, so every now and then you might have a little bit of time out and just relax at best, but most of the time you're doing, and everything's led by the doing. And so that's our Western culture, isn't it? Doing. We're all human doings, and we forgot that actually fundamentally we are being. We have this true awareness that is just being, and that's primary. And if we don't make that primary, then we suffer the consequences of falsehood, really, because it's not true that we are human doings. It's not true that doing is more important than being. That's the falsity that the ego perpetuates. So all of these teachings are really just trying to correct that imbalance and say, well, make oneness, make beingness primary, make the yin in this yin yang language. The yin is beingness. Make that primary, and then the doing comes from the being, and that's secondary, and that flows from it without an undue emphasis on the doing. The doing, it's more about the beingness in action. It's more about really connecting with the beingness and staying rooted in that while you do it, than the outcome of the action. But paradoxically, if you do that, and you're not concerned about the outcome, then the outcome's likely to be a lot better. That's the paradox of this. By not focusing on outcome and on the goal you want, you're more likely to get a very high quality outcome, whatever that may look like. It may not look like what you thought it would look like, but if you're really in a flow state, you're not really thinking about outcome at all. You're just in the process of it. So it's completely the opposite of how we've been trained to think in our Western culture. The way we taught to think from a young age is, well, you want an outcome, you've got a goal, set the goal, go after it. Goal setting, personal development. There's a whole industry based on this idea. Well, yes, you need to set goals and you need to make this happen, and there's a lot of stress with that. I found, personally, because that's how I started my journey. Age of 12, I was reading books like Think and Grow Rich and by Napoleon Hill. What the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. And I really bought it. I really bought into it. I was like, yeah, this is amazing, great, and it was all about the future. At some point in future, I was going to be happy because I'd do this. I was my particular illusion was I was going to be a champion squash player. And when I was a champion squash player, then everything would be okay. Then I'd be happy, and I would, my life would be made. Then I'd be made, and then one thing would lead to another. Then I'd become a motivational speaker. So I had it all planned out but it was all future oriented. Like I just missed so much, I wasn't really present. It was always, well, no, one day when so I'm working towards it and really not being present. And fortunately, in time that did change. I learned to be much more present because the beauty of sport is if you're not present, you don't play very well. You get immediate feedback. So it was like, okay, this isn't really working. I'm creating a lot of stress for myself because I have this outcome, this huge, big, hairy, impossible goal to be a world champion, not just a champion. No, I need to be the world champion. It's going to be like number one, right? So huge pressure, psychological pressure. I'm nowhere near that level, and I kind of know that. But I'm like, no. If I really believe it, what the mind of man can believe and conceive, it can achieve, type thing. then I'll get there. But it created a lot of cognitive dissonance, a lot of stress in me. And you know, if I'd lose a match, I'd have to really pick myself up, because like, well, everything was like reference to this ultimate goal. Well, how can I lose to this palooka when I'm supposed to be a world champion, and I'm losing to someone who's like number 150 in the world or something? It's not even world ranked. So it created a lot of stress, but it was a good learning experience, because you know, you learn the hard way. I learned that when I actually did let go of outcome, and I was able to just be in the moment, that I played better, I enjoyed it more, and it was all okay. And in the end, I had to drop that goal. I just like, I'm not going to do this. So that was a major letting go experience for me, which I think really opened me up to these teachings. So I'm very grateful for it. You know, so as Yeshua says, you know, sometimes you think your greatest failures are actually your greatest advances spiritually, and your greatest advances on the level of form are actually your failures spiritually, because you're getting more entrenched in the ego. It's all upside down and backwards. So, you know, that goal that I failed at dismally, I didn't get anywhere close to doing it, was actually a great advance in spiritual terms, because I learned so much out of that experience. I learned really the essence of this. I learned what flow was experientially, and then, you know, over subsequent years, I've gone, oh, okay, well, now I'm reading, you know, about the Tao and Wu Wei and Course in Miracles, and it kind of fits in because I had the experience of it. So it's experiential knowing rather than you know, just book learning, because in the end, that's what we need to do. And then you know, it makes you a better learner and teacher, because you can teach from your experience of it. Going, yeah, well, actually, this stuff is true. These are not just fancy concepts. You know, these actually do apply in life. And if you go out of the flow and you violate these principles, you suffer. You suffer and you suffer until you correct your mind. You come into alignment. So if you're not feeling good and in flow, then, you know, there's something wrong, and you need to pay attention to that, because that's then the spirit saying, well, correct yourself. You're out of alignment, do some correction and come back into alignment. Okay, so any comments, questions, thoughts on any of that?
There are times, aren't there, where you're in flow, you're really going fast, being guided, lots of things happen, and then suddenly it's like you go up to me, I visualize it as going up to another level, and then it gets a bit slower and it gets a bit sludgy. There isn't necessarily any resistance or anything particularly to know. It's just that it feels to me like I've gone up to the next level and then hit another little another energy source, another energy level. Well, it's difficult to describe, isn't it? But do you know what I mean? Where you get in flow and then you kind of get out of flow, but you're not really out of alignment. You're just up to the next level.
Yeah, it's like a little phase interrupt or something between one phase and another. So you're going to have times, you know, not everything's always going to go smoothly, but this idea of being in flow and being miracle minded is really worth keeping in mind. You know, that this is what it should feel like. If it's not feeling that way, okay, well, let me correct. There's maybe some letting go to do. There's maybe I've hit another little block. There's some ego resistance, because, you know, the ego is fighting you the whole way on this journey. It doesn't really want you to do this, so it shows up as resistance. You know, if there's no resistance, then you're in flow. Resistance means you go out of the flow. So the way to overcome any resistance is look at it, become aware of it, and just choose to let it go. So, okay, I see it. It's just a feeling. It's an energy arising, a little bit of resistance, but I can let go of this and just be, you know, completely present. There's no resistance in my doing. So I'm checking that out constantly. You know, am I in resistance here, or have I really let go and things are flowing? And then the outcomes will, you know, come in their own time. You don't get outcome oriented. It's like, well, I'm doing what I need to do. things are flowing forward, and that's okay. And I notice myself, if I move out of flow, then I'm becoming too outcome oriented. So I want that outcome, and I want it sooner rather than later. So then that moves me out of the flow into a state of time bound consciousness, and that creates stress because it's not happening quickly enough in my judgment. But who's judging? So now you see what it does subtly. Instead of just allowing it to happen and the flow's doing it, the Tao is doing it, and I'm not really the doer. As soon as I do this, as soon as I experience stress and resistance, I'm now become the doer, and I've got to make it happen, and it's got to happen when I think it should happen. And that is of course how the ego works. Now you've got a personal identification with the action, with the goal, the outcome, and the more invested you get in that, the more egoic you are, the more invested you are in the separate self. So do you see the connection between flow and this undoing of the ego, and conversely the ego and being out of flow and being rooted in time and setting goals and making the outcomes important? They really go hand in glove, both, because they're part of the same thought system. So the ego is always trying to get you out of time, out of oneness, out of eternity, and rooting on the timeline and identifying with a character on the timeline. So it enjoys the resistance and the stressing, and because that makes the character real. The resistance gives some kind of reality to the character. But if you're in flow and there's no resistance, then there's no reality to the character. It's just this presence moving through you. You experience it as an energy moving through you, just doing it. And there's no sense of a separate doer doing it. So that's what's really going on. This is why the ego's invented a world where we're continuously having to do, because it's part of its defense mechanism. That and I'm the doer, and I've got to do it, and the performance outcomes, my behavior and performance outcomes are very important. And the more I think about those, and the more I feel about those, the more rooted I am to the ego's identity, sense of a separate self. The only way out is to let go of that, restore your mind to God, love, eternity, pure formless awareness, knowledge, oneness, the Tao, whatever you want to call that, the blue circle. And then reinterpret. You restore your mind to that state, and then you reinterpret. You come back from that state, and you look at the situation again, and you change your perception of it. So now it's no longer such a terrible thing that I got rejected by my first special love. I go, well, that's just showing me that special love isn't true, and that actually I can't rely on it. The only thing that is true is divine love. And so that's a very useful lesson. Thank you. So I just reinterpret that experience, and then it's no longer traumatic, it's actually helpful. And that's what he's asking us to do, moment by moment, in this flow state as life unfolds, to do the correction or the miracle, which is the letting go, and then the reinterpretation of the situation from that perspective, which then gives me a different perception of that situation and allows me to flow forward. I don't get rooted, I don't get stuck in time on any event that's happened. I just move forward from it very, very seamlessly, in a very flowing manner, moment by moment by moment. Okay, does that diagram make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet, you haven't seen that one before. I don't know if you can actually see it on your tablet, hopefully. Otherwise, I'll send it out again at some point. I've sent it out a couple of times in mails over the last few weeks. So if there are no more questions, I think let's have a look at our lesson. Any questions yet, Iona? You can pop something in the chat if you can't speak.
Hi there. I've just swapped onto a quieter train, and I've been listening.
Okay.
And I'll put some comments on the chat, but it's very, very pertinent. This lesson, I realise that I'm travelling on the train, listening to this, and thinking about my mother, who was always reading. Well, in the 80s, it was Jack Black, and I don't know who it was. And she would drive a lot and listen to these self-help tapes. and it was always so kind of insistent, and she was making use of every moment she had, and she would come back and say, do you know, these people just sat on the train, they just didn't seem to do anything, they just sat out the window, and you know, I got so much work done. And so I'm sitting looking out the window
and just being.
I'm trying to be, and realizing where this pressure came from. And ego's been chasing me around about doing. And then I realized that when I have done, the ego world showed me that when I was doing in form, money would appear in form, and that was very nice. So I got my reward. And now when I'm trying not to do that so much and just allow flow to come through me, and not to be the doing, but to be done. Well, that's my lesson for today, and it was yesterday too. So I'll put more on chat.
Sorry?
Is there not too much background noise though?
No, it's okay.
Okay, good. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, so just I'd say, Iona, this is part of the journey. Becoming truly in alignment with the course, and becoming a miracle worker is about finding this harmony between being and doing. That's why we miracle workers. We're still acting in this world, but the being is primary and the doing is secondary. And it's very tempting to invert that. The ego is obsessed with doing, so it's always going to try and flip that around and get you to identify with the doing and the doer. Right? Who's doing it? Well, that's the question. You now become the doer, and it's all on you, and that creates a lot of undesirable consequences. Stress, desire, fear, stress, which take you out of the now. And it's a habit. If your mother was the example for you at a young age, and she was always doing, then it's a habit that you've got to undo. That this isn't the way. The way of the Tao, the way of Wu Wei or flow, is to be rooted in being and allow the doing to come from that without apparent effort. So it's completely contrary to this whole personal growth doing. Really what they're saying is your identity and your worth, your self-worth, is related to what you do. And this is a huge mistake that we make if we believe that. Because if my worth is based on what I do, then it's a very fragile self-worth, because what we do in this world has very variable outcomes. We don't necessarily know what the outcome's going to be on the level of form, and almost certainly it's not probably going to be what we expected it to be. So even if it's actually not such a bad outcome, it's our expectation that makes it into a problem. We expect it to be better, we judge it according to the expectation, and then we disappoint it because it hasn't met our expectations. But that cycle of desire and then disappointment is the source of suffering. We suffer and suffer and suffer. The Buddha noticed this, and he said, desire, or craving as he called it, is the source of all suffering for that reason, because you're going out of the now, you're going out of the flow, you're expecting, and then inevitably you're going to be disappointed. So it's going to happen time and time and time again. If you expect and you desire, but you will be disappointed. So okay, Anna's just gone. So thanks for sharing that. She's back. So I don't know if you heard any of that. Any other comments, or happy to move into the lesson?
Thanks. We're in a tunnel. Yeah, my lesson is the undoing of doing. Yeah.
Well, it's undoing of the doer. Just be precise in the language, because you're still going to do.
The doer. Yeah.
The undoing of the doer, the sense of a separate doer, and then the doing happens through you. The whole point of being miracle minded or being in Wu Wei or flow, whatever you want to call it, is you as a separate seeming entity are not doing it. There is no doer. It is doing you. Right?
Okay.
So the Tao, the oneness, does you, and you simply allow that and you surrender to that. And that takes some training, some mind training, because you're not used to doing that. You're used to being the doer. That's how we've all been trained over many, many years. So this takes some readjustment.
Okay.
And it doesn't just happen overnight. You'll have times where you're like, okay, well, maybe I'm going back into being the doer now, rather than just allowing myself to be done through. And you notice the barometer of it is your thoughts and emotions. So if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling uncomfortable, if there's a cognitive dissonance, to use a psychological term, but everything's not quite kosher there. It's like there's a bit of grit in the Vaseline. It's like
definitely
resistance. Then okay, I'm out of flow here, and I feel that I'm out of flow, because in true Wu Wei, in true effortless doing, there is no sense of a doer. There is no sense of strain or resistance. It's just happening through you, and it feels very, very expanded, very joyful. I've had a few experiences like that, which I've shared before, but I'll mention it again because I'm not sure if you others heard it, where like I was on the squash court, particularly one time, and I just completely let go of the doer. There was no sense of me doing it anymore. I was being played. I was not the player, I was being played, and it just happened through me. And it was quite an extraordinary experience, and I'll remember it for the rest of my life, because it was like, the doer just went away. And I having had that experience, then you read these teachings and you go, I get it. It's because that is really what it felt like. I was experiencing that, and then never as much afterwards. But I kept quite a lot of that flow going, for pretty much the rest of my career. It was quite extraordinary. One experience put me into a different vibrational state, and I was able to kind of drop into that to an extent, never so completely, but a lot of the doer had just dropped away, and so that's what we're working on here.
Have you ever had feelings of, I wish I could get back to that sort of blissful being done through feeling, and think, that's my question.
I think initially I did. There was a sense of, oh wow, this experience was about, but I was still having pretty amazing. I mean, like compared with how I was before that experience. I remember for months afterwards, I was like, wow, I'm just in flow. I just went on, and I just played, and I played really well. It was just very creative, just playing all kinds of shots, and there was no fear. So. It's a long time ago. I think there was a bit of like, oh well, it would be nice to have, to have that again. But those peak experiences don't come around that often. And it was because there was such a contrast between the fear that I was in before that. I was in a lot of fear about this particular match, and that I'd lose, and I was very outcome oriented, and it was a whole build up of many years. But I'd been professional for about 6 months, months and months of like all this mental activity, and then it just let go in that moment, in that half an hour match or whatever. I just let it all go, and just released this huge energy that was within me. Within me, it was coming through me. You can't really explain where it comes from, but it's not you. It's not the little you doing it. That little you's dropped away. And so if you keep practicing this, you might have like a mystic experience like that, where it's like, wow, I get a peak experience, as Abraham Maslow would call it, a peak experience that just really opens me up to this this other way, and it's given to you as a gift to help you on your journey. I really saw that. It was like, I'm not expecting then that it should always be this way, that I should always have that intensity of experience, because it was given as a gift, but it was enough. One experience like that is life-changing. It really, that did change my life. It changed my squash career, changed my life.
It's like
so you practice,
really
and
wonderful time
Yeah. And part of it will just be like you let go, and again, not being outcome oriented. I don't crave the experience, because that's another craving. I crave the spiritual high. I crave the peak experience, and then it's not quite happening, and now I'm disappointed. Well, now you're back in the ego and out of flow.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, well, experience is what it is. I mean, I'm just open to whatever the experience is without expectation. And I did learn that to a large degree through my squash. It was like I just go and play and be like, okay, I'm just experiencing, and it is what it is. And I learned not to judge it. And sometimes it was more intense flow, sometimes less so. Sometimes I felt out of flow. It did happen. But most of the time, I was pretty much there. I was in flow, and it felt pretty good, and I flowed with it. And whether I won or lost, I quite enjoyed the experience, and I learned, through the experience of that's what's important. It's the enjoyment of it. It's the process of it rather than the outcome of it that's important. And that was a major catalyst for me learning all these principles, because then I started reading about it and you go, oh, okay, well, this corresponds with what I've experienced here. And all these, this points you really to the deeper spiritual truth. So that, that experience on the squash court actually pointed me to the deepest spiritual non-dual truth many years later. It was part of that awakening. So you start to see, it's all part of your awakening journey. It's amazing. Okay, so any other comments or questions, Yad?
Yeah, I seem to have gone the other way round. So I was in flow when I was much younger, and I didn't worry about things. Everything used to come to me easily, and I just sort of drifted through my life, and it was all wonderful until I think I was around about 40, and I discovered the secret. And then my ego kicked in, and I started trying to create this life. And ever since then, I'm trying to go back to the way I was, because it's kind of, my life is pear-shaped completely. I didn't have any issues over my body, any health issues, any money issues. I had nothing until I discovered the secret.
Yeah, and interesting. That's such an interesting experience, because the secret is based on desire. What they're telling you there is desire what you want, and this is the secret to happy, healthy life. But it's actually not, as you experience. No. It's completely going in the opposite. If you're already in a kind of surrendered flow state, it's taking you in the opposite direction. The secret could be helpful if you're really in a victim state, and you're in inertia, and you need a bit of kind of something to catalyze you into a higher energy state. It moves you from, in the Eastern teaching, they have tamas. Tamas is inertia, where you're kind of in a victim state and very passive, but not in a surrendered passive way, in a kind of victim state. It's like, oh, poor me, and I can't do anything, and I'm powerless, and I'm a victim. And so the secret could be a useful tool to go, okay, well, actually, I'm not a victim. I can actually change my mind. I can control my life. I can do something about this. Really, I'm not a victim of my circumstances in the world. So it can have value there. But if you're already in a surrendered state, which is there's tamas, rajas, and sattva. Sattva is knowledge. Sattva is the knowledge of the Tao, of the oneness. If you're already there, then it's actually a regression. It's taking you back from the third lane. Think about, in a highway analogy, you're on the third lane on the autobahn, you're just cruising along, and now suddenly something comes on and says, no, go into the second lane, that's going to be better. And you go, whoa, actually it's not. I'm kind of now stuck behind lorries, and they, belching smoke and it's like everything's just kind of out of flow. Whereas if you were in the first lane, then it would be an upscale.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's just going back to what you already knew.
But because everyone was in the other lane, and I was on my own in that slow lane, and everyone else was doing something different. So I thought I had it wrong, and that they had it right. And undoing that is really challenging.
Yeah. So how many years ago was that? Like 10?
Well, it's over 10 years now. Yeah. I'm more at peace with it now, and I'm realizing, and obviously the Course in Miracles is
Yeah.
actually, the Course in Miracles for me is like coming home. It's everything that I believed as a child and in my younger years. I'm now finding exactly was right, and that, you know, starting to believe what everyone else was telling me was where I went wrong. So I'm, I'm full circle. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, you know, we need to take these little ego detours to realize, to, you know, as part of our awakening journey, to go, okay, well, secret comes along, ego gets activated. Oh, yeah, you know, this is going to be better, desire, craving, and then you experience the downside of it, and you go, actually, maybe not. Maybe that's not going to work. You know, as much as they like to, you know, punt it and say, you know, this is going to work. Honestly, it's not. In your experience, it isn't going to work ultimately. As I said, it could be a helpful step for someone who's in a victim state to get hold of the secret, and you know, it might then prepare them for something like A Course in Miracles, because they're probably not going to go straight from deep victimhood into non-dual truth. So it's kind of a phase, and so it can and has been helpful. It was helpful for me, I suppose, for, you know, many years I did it, and it put me on a path that then led ultimately to a, you know, higher realization. If I hadn't done all of my squash stuff, and I hadn't learned to meditate, and I got into breathing practices, and that was all, you know, registically oriented. I was trying to get an outcome. I was trying to be a champion, so that's why I did it. But you know, the unintended consequences of that were that it opened my mind to a higher truth, and to realize that this actually wasn't the way. This majestic, you know, I want to set a goal and achieve it, that actually really wasn't making me happy, and it didn't work. In the end, you know, it failed dismally. I didn't get the outcome that I wanted. If I'd actually succeeded on the level of form and become a champion, it would have been a success from the ego's point of view, but it actually would have been a spiritual regression, because I would go, oh, well, that worked, so I'll keep doing it if it worked. But because it didn't, in fact, it failed so dismally, I had to really question it and say, well, okay, maybe actually this isn't true. That's what it led me to question. Maybe actually what the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve is not true. Maybe it's false. Maybe there's something else. Maybe I'm missing something. And so then I went in search of what I was missing, and I landed up at the Course eventually from that search. So you know, when we have these difficulties, it's all there as part of our journey to encourage us, to catalyze us into a higher state, to learn, to say, okay, well, you know, you don't have the full picture yet, so keep learning. And this is the hero's journey that you know, we're all on, which I think I probably shared this with you, but I'll just bring up this diagram. I can't remember if I shared this in the one session that you did do, the hero's journey. So this is where we, the journey we're all on, and we have these challenges and these temptations, but they are there as part of the journey. They're an integral part of the journey. Without the challenges and temptations and having to go through those, you don't grow, and you don't ultimately collapse the ego. So, you know, that 10-year, it wasn't a waste. That 10-year secret detour was part of the hero's journey, of your hero's journey. And then, you know, overcoming it was part of it. Okay, and then finding the Course and saying, well, I need to actually go back to how I was. It's almost like you needed to experience that because you were doing it unconsciously. You were in the flow unconsciously. You needed to have the experience of going out of flow so you could become conscious of it. You go, oh, okay, actually now I understand more what I was doing, and it makes sense. But now I'm aware of it. I'm conscious of it, and therefore I'm not going to. The ego cannot hijack me again, because I've learned that lesson. I'm not going to go there again because I've learned, and that's all part of your hero's journey of you know, undoing. And now, you know, you've met me, and it's beautiful how it unfolds. You know, it's just the spirit guiding you, and you're not really in charge of it. It's, you know, you are being done through the spirit, the oneness, the Tao, whatever you want to call it, is doing you and showing you the way home, and you just follow the guidance. You follow the prompts, you know, as it shows up. So the hero's journey and flow and Wu Wei, it's all really saying the same thing. It's just another version of it, in a framed in a different way. Okay, so any other questions, comments? Anyone like to share? No?
Well, I'll just say thank you, actually. Thank you for that, because that really resonates with everything you said. And it kind of, rather than beating myself up about it, like, how could I have failed? I can see now that actually it's perfect. It was all perfect.
No, it's a success, because the ego would have arisen one way or another, whether it was through The Secret or somewhere else. There was obviously still a frequency in you that resonated with the ego.
Yeah.
So if it hadn't happened that way, it would have happened another way. And that's all good, because it needs to come out. It needs to reveal itself. You need to experience the downside of it and go, okay, actually, this really isn't working too well, in order to then prepare you for something like A Course in Miracles, which if you hadn't had the secret so-called, diversion, then maybe you wouldn't have been ready for the course 10 years later. So, this is how it goes. So it's all perfect in its imperfection. And if you see that, then you stop beating yourself up and you just go, it's all okay. It's okay. The mistakes are all part of it. They weren't really mistakes. It's just learning experiences. Whatever they were, no matter how the world judges them. You could have been a multiple serial killer. Okay, some, big errors in the level of form, but you can still awaken through that experience. The spirit doesn't judge you ever. So, and many people have, they've gone to prison and they've awoken there, been on death row and they've awoken. They're like, okay, I finally, I get it. I've let go, and there's no judgment. You're not guilty. You just had to have that experience, obviously, of doing whatever you did to awaken. So this is the non-judgment we've been encouraged to practice. How can you possibly judge anyone else's journey? You just can't. You really can't. The spirit's got it all, and someone may seem to be losing their way, but then that's just part of their journey. And you know that ultimately they will come back. If you can help on that, then great. And if you can't, well, you just observe non-judgmentally. Because who are you to say? I was listening to Ram Dass yesterday. It's like, well, who are we to say? If say a teenager commits suicide, society says that's terrible. Well, who are we to say? How do we know? Maybe they just took an early exit. They graduated from 4th grade to 5th grade early. Who are we to say that that's wrong? Which is why we can't really judge. Only thing you can do is listen to the guidance on your own path, and it will be there if you're open to it. Okay, so should we have a look at the today's lesson? I think so. I'm going to start a new recording because we're into a lesson. So I split these recordings into parts. Right. So what I've done is I've put this into a document here. So this one is lesson 110. I am as God created me. So I'm going to ask.
I might leave, Jonathan, if you don't mind, because I'm on a different lesson at the moment. So
yeah,
I might just leave it.
Okay, no problem.
So much. I've really appreciated being with you this morning.
Yeah,
it's been really good. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too. So join us again.
I will do.
Same
Thanks.
time tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Namaste. All right. So let's go into this. We've got 110. Okay. So I am as God created me is the lesson, and can ask you to read read the first paragraph for us, Sally. That would be great.
I am,
and the main idea.
Yeah, I am as God created me. We will repeat.
So the translation of that. Let's do the translation after this. Read it first, and then we'll translate.
We will repeat today's idea from time to time, for this one thought would be enough to save you and the world if you believed that it is true. Its truth would mean that you have made no changes in yourself that have reality, nor changed the universe so that God created what was replaced by fear and evil, misery and death. If you remain as God created you, fear has no meaning, evil is not real, and misery and death do not exist. Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's kind of stating the case very clearly there. So I'm just going to copy that. I've done a bit of translation to help you. So translation is, I am as love extended me, rather than I am as God created me, which I think has well, for me anyway, that has a nicer feel to it. I am as love extended me. I'm this loving presence, and that alone. And if you want to read the translation, that'd be great. I've managed to do most of it for you, I think.
Lovely.
So
it's I am as love extended me. We will repeat today's idea from time to time, for this one thought would be enough to save you and the world if you believe that it is true. Its truth would mean that you have made no changes in yourself, and you have in yourself. I keep moving it. It's like a moving target trying to read it.
sorry.
Its truth would mean that you have made no changes in yourself that have reality, nor changed the universe, so that what pure formless awareness of perfect love created was replaced by fear and evil, misery and death. If you remain as pure formless awareness of perfect love created, you fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we want to do a bit of translation with created, should be extended. I didn't quite get that translation. So the idea of extended is it's always been there. You've just been extended from what's always been there. You were never created in the sense of you're brought into being. Because if you're eternal, then that's not true, is it? Created sort of implies that that's the case. So extended. Okay, where were you at number 4?
If you remain as pure formless awareness of perfect love extended, you fear.
Extended you. If you remain as pure formless awareness of perfect love extended you.
Oh, extended you. Fear has no meaning.
It actually needs a comma. Really. Comma. Fear has no meaning.
If you remain as pure formless awareness of perfect love extended you, fear has no meaning, evil is not real, and misery and death do not exist. Okay, it made sense then. That comma made a big difference.
Yeah, sometimes it just needs a bit of punctuation as well as word changes. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just believing it all the time, isn't it, really? We get tricked into thinking other things, and the worldview kind of takes over sometimes, and it's coming back to the truth over and over again.
I am as love created me. So he's saying this one thought undoes the entire world. This one thought will be enough to save you and the world. So I think instead of save, maybe we should say awaken. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good.
Pretty extraordinary, really. One thought is powerful enough to awaken you and the world. Just one idea. If you fully accept it and believe it. Yeah. So that's the power of these ideas.
It's the believing it, isn't it? It's like intellectually, yeah, get it, but to really fully embody, not yet.
Yeah, because it's very deep-seated. This belief is entrenched very deep in your psyche, and it underpins your seemingly separate identity and the entire world. It's the belief system that's invented an entire false reality. So that's going to take a bit of undoing. But mind training mind training is certainly needed. to help you with that.
I guess the first step is recognizing that you don't wholly believe it, though, isn't it?
Yeah. First step in undoing illusions, as Yeshua says, is to start questioning them, saying, "Okay, well, actually, do I really believe that, or do I doubt it? I might still, have some kind of subconscious belief, but consciously I go, actually, I don't believe that anymore. I don't actually believe that." And so this is what he's doing. He's just asking us to look again at the ego's thought system and consider whether we actually do believe this, and we do want to believe it, because in the end it's a choice. That's how we made the illusion. We desired something else than oneness. So that desire for something else, and to continue that something else, that's the problem. But you can change that. Just desire something else. Okay, so any thoughts on that?
No, it's just helpful for me to admit out loud that I didn't wholly believe it. Yeah.
Didn't wholly believe, but believe perfect oneness.
I wasn't feeling it. I was thinking it. But I can feel it in my heart now as I talk about it. So it's going into the body.
That's good. Yeah, in the end, this is experiential. So the words, he's using the words to try and point you into an experience of it. So that, I am as God created me. You can say that intellectually, but it's feeling it. I am as, and I really feel that, and I feel the power of that, and I feel a shift in my mind, and there's a state of mind, a presence that's arising. Now it becomes experiential. Now I start to know the truth rather than just believe the truth. That's what we try to do here: shift ourselves from belief into knowing. In ultimate truth, in heaven, there's no belief. You don't believe in heaven. You simply are in heaven. It's a state of awareness that we call knowing. State of pure formless awareness of perfect love. Is heaven. So he's trying to restore our minds to that state through this course. Yeah,
when I realized all beliefs weren't true, that was a big turning point. And actually that came from the follow-up book of The Secret. Can't remember what it's called, but whatever the follow-up book was. And they were talking about all beliefs are not true. I went, oh wow. So it's not about changing your negative beliefs to positive beliefs. It's about taking it to the next level, and that made a big difference. Yeah, so it's
so there, in that instance, The Secret was helpful to you because you got an insight from it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, actually, not all beliefs are true. So that's pointing you to the highest teaching, which is there's truth and there's illusion, and you need to recognize truth and let go of illusions. That's really all you need to do. But the recognition of what's true and what's false is the whole thing. If you knew what was true and what was false, then you would never have got yourself into such a mix in the first place. We mixed it all up and we got ourselves very confused. And now we've got to try and sort out the confusion. From starting from that confused state where we think that what is actually false is true. Okay, so any other thoughts on number one? Give a little summary of that, and then we'll move on to number two.
Well, there's no fear, evil, misery, and death. It's all pure formless awareness of perfect love extended, and all those deceptions, all those illusions, just are not true. They're just in our mind. And the more we repeat the truth, the more we will understand it and embody it.
Yeah, you are that state of mind. And if you translate God as pure formless awareness of perfect love, how can pure formless awareness of perfect love by definition, have fear and evil and misery and death. Because it wouldn't be pure formless awareness of perfect love then, would it?
Yes.
So you see the very obvious paradox, obvious contradiction. You can't reconcile these. You must choose between these ideas, between these thought systems. Okay.
Yeah.
Happy to move on to 2.
Yeah. Fear is associated then with love, and its results become the heritage of minds that think they have.
Oh, sorry. Wrong. That's an old. Although it actually is quite appropriate. You could quite easily read it. We're just going to copy it from here. So let's get this one. Okay. 10. So there we go. Read number 2.
Today's idea is therefore all you need to let complete correction heal your mind and give you perfect vision that will heal all the mistakes that any mind has made at any time or place. It is enough to heal the past and make the future free. It is enough to let the present be accepted as it is. And it is enough to let time be the means for all the world to learn escape from time. And every change that time appears to bring in passing by, every change that time appears to bring in passing by. What does that mean?
So time is about change. So every change that time appears to bring about in passing by. So as time passes,
okay, yeah,
change happens. So in fact, the only way we can measure time is through change.
Yeah.
Nothing changed, and there would be no sense of time. We go, well, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. So, this is now passing time. Things are changing all the time. So change and time go, hand in hand, and changelessness and timelessness or eternity go hand in hand. Because in the eternal state of now, there's no change.
Yeah.
So he's saying here, pointing us, out of time.
Yeah, that came to me yesterday. Well, it kind of got that little aha, the infinite time, the infinite now that we talk about kind of just sunk in a bit more yesterday. I was like, oh, yes, there's no time, is there? It's like no change needed. It is all now and it's all perfect. It's funny, isn't it, how it sinks in a bit. So it's reinforcing that.
Yeah. But it's always now. And any change must therefore be an illusion. The changing appearances of this world are illusion, because change and eternal oneness don't go hand. They contradict each other. You can't have change in eternity. It just is. It's a stable state.
Yeah, that's
the paradox we're living in. Seemingly in time, where change and time and space have meaning, but actually the ideas are all false. Time has no meaning. Change has no meaning. If there's only eternal oneness, then what meaning could change have?
Just changing from ego to truth is the only change.
Yeah, and even that, Yes was saying to us, well, you think that's a change because you've denied the truth, and so you now have to change your mind about that denial. You have to deny the denial, turn your mind to truth. But in truth, nothing ever really happened. You never really left oneness. So your whole journey never really happened. As you're playing the journey out, you start to recognize it. So, well, actually, I'm just returning to what's always been the case. I've always been there. And I'm starting to remember that state. Yes, It's becoming more and more familiar. Yes, I remember what this was like. Just, total peace. Total peace, love, joy, nothing I need to do. I need to do nothing. I just rest in my eternal self. So easy. Like, why would we leave that? You're like, were we crazy? Well, yes, we were crazy. Why would you leave that, perfect state of bliss where all your needs are taken care of? You have no needs. It's just everything's perfect right now, and it's never going to change. And then we decided to leave it. Go, no, we don't want that. We want something else. And Yeshua's saying that wasn't a good choice. It really wasn't. And now you've just got to find your way out. As he says, enough to heal the past, make the future free. So as you do this, you go onto the timeline here. Heal the past. So any past incident, you might be here in your timeline, and you're looking backwards, and you have these various events, maybe traumas in your life, and you look back on them, and from this moment to now, you can heal all of this. If you bring your mind fully into the present moment, then you heal this, you let it go. So that's why he says, there's enough to heal the past and make the future free. So you let go of the ego's interpretation of past events, and if you do that, then you free the future, because now you can be in the flow without the past guiding you. You're now open to this awareness guiding you, and it frees the future into a flowing, miraculous state of mind. And your outcomes are likely to be a lot better than they were when you were listening to the ego.
Yeah, it's really profound, isn't it? Not using the past to create the future. Because that's what most people do. They bounce off from it, don't you? So like if you've had a bad relationship, then you want the opposite of that relationship. And yeah, so if it's just in the flow, in the now, it's going to be completely different to what our mind thinks.
The healing, the letting go, activates all of this. So, Yeshua was saying there's one thing we got to do, and that's to let go, because that activates all of this. That puts you in the now. It collapses the past and the future. It gets you out of the timeline. You just have to let go. You just have to forgive or let go, in the terminology. And all of this will happen, and it's given you. So one thing you have to do. Surely it's not that hard.
Surely.
But you find it hard.
Yeah.
Because you're not just letting go of a thought and one idea. Then you're like, okay, well, I'm just letting go of a trauma. I had a, major rejection in my special love, or I had a messy divorce, and that's, quite traumatic. So what's the big deal? Let it go. But what you're letting go of when you do that is your entire separate identity and the entire universe of time and space that it made up. And so, part of your mind doesn't want to do that. You want to fudge it. You want to say, well, no, I can just cherry pick and have the good stuff. I'll have the good stuff of time and space. This is the secrets I do. I can have the good stuff and, do away with the bad stuff. So I'm seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. But the more you do that, the more you're in duality. Because there's craving and aversion in there. That's duality. And the expectation and a fear, that's duality. And that keeps your mind between these polarities and never actually just rooted in your beingness, rooted in oneness.
Yeah, it's quite a wow, really. That's what I used to do. I used to avoid pain all the time. I used to always take the most painless route, but it made my life get smaller and smaller.
Because you're avoiding pain. So now your life is dominated by the craving, because it is a craving, the craving to avoid pain, the desire to avoid pain. It's another desire. And then you get contracted, and now you're acting. That's fear then, isn't it? Oh, I fear that, so I'll act based on that. And then the flow is blocked. You can't access the flow in that state. So we know, your experience tells you that this is true. This isn't just theory. This is actually how it works, or
But
doesn't work,
But like
depending
I
on.
said to Yad, the experience is so important, isn't it? That period that I had of avoiding pain after I separated from my husband and during the process of divorce, it was avoiding any more pain was a really good lesson because, it wasn't enjoyable to avoid pain. It just wasn't in the right place. But then after that process, I got into flow, more flow than I've ever been in before. So yeah, I'm just speaking out loud that it makes sense to me in my head.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a necessary part of the journey. And that's what you've got to see. It's all a necessary part of the journey. Okay, so where are we? I think I'm not quite sure how that got there. Here we change. Let's just go to the original here. So we've got some stuff going on. Let's have a look. Check the original. Passing by. Yeah. Okay. I'm not quite sure where that came from. So that's what happens when you copy and paste. That somehow got in there unwittingly. I don't know how. So I'm not actually sure. Did we have to do a translation there? I'm not sure we did actually. There's really nothing to translate there. All mistakes that any mind has made. Yeah, I'm not sure we can really translate any of that. So we'll just can that. Okay, so happy with number 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so number 3, just tab across. Number 3, and this one is going to need some translation. Okay, and
Have you finished?
no, still busy. Okay, so you want to read number 3?
If you remain as God created you, appearances cannot replace the truth. Health cannot turn to sickness, nor can death be a substitute for life or fear for love. All this has not occurred. If you remain as God created you, you need no thought, but just this one to let redemption come to light the world, to light the world and free it from the past.
Okay, and then the alternative.
Alternatively, if you remain as pure, formless awareness of perfect love created you. Does that make sense?
Make that. Yeah. Extended you, I think.
Okay.
Consistent.
If you remain as pure, formless awareness of perfect love extended you, appearances cannot replace the truth. Health cannot turn to sickness, nor can death be a substitute for life or fear for love. All this has not occurred if you remain as pure, formless awareness of perfect love extended you. You need no thought, but just this one to let redemption come to the true awareness.
Come to true awareness of.
To true awareness of the world.
Okay, no. So the original is to light the world.
All right.
And I just did a group replace to. Just needs an of there, I'd say. Come to true awareness of the world and free it from the past. Okay. Do you want to just read that again? Let's just make sure it all flows nicely.
If you remain as pure, formless awareness of perfect love extended you, appearances cannot replace the truth. Health cannot turn to sickness, nor can death be a substitute for life or fear for love. all this has not occurred. If you remain as pure formless awareness of perfect love extended you, you need no thought, but just this one, to let redemption come to true awareness of the world and free it from the past.
That needs some translation there too. So that redemption, you want to leave it as redemption or awakening?
Oh, awakening works for me.
Yeah, okay. So that awakening come to bring true awareness of the world. Yeah, okay. To let awakening come to bring true awareness of the world. And awakening allow, maybe? What do you think? Awakening allow true awareness of the world to arise in your mind.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so maybe just read the last sentence. Let's make sure we're happy with that.
You need no thought, but just this one, to let awakening allow true awareness of the world to arise in your mind and free it from the past. Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't think that needs a comma there. To let, there's no comma there. To let awakening allow true awareness of the world to arise in your mind and free it from the past. Okay, makes sense. You want to give a little summary of that?
Just remaining in pure formless awareness of perfect love, and none of the illusions are there. It hasn't occurred, didn't exist, and it frees you up from the past and the future. Fear of the future. Lets all that go, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you need no thought. If you fully accept this one thought, I am as perfect love created me. As I was extended, I remain. Then all of that illusion goes. It's extraordinary, but it just has to drop away out of your mind.
Yeah, it's a practice.
None of it actually has happened. And you start to realize that at a deeper and deeper level. So it seems to have happened. I seem to be human, seem to be living this life. But in truth, none of it's really happened. It's just this crazy dream I'm caught up in. And I start to know that experientially. And then I'm able to live my life quite peacefully in the dream. Because the dream's really not serious. It's not so serious, it's not so real, it's not traumatic, it's nothing. It's just a dream.
Yeah.
So why am I getting upset or excited or craving or expecting or fearing or desiring or whatever movement of the mind that the ego wants you to do? Why am I doing any of that when it's just a dream?
Yeah, I had an experience a few years ago where I was doing some breath work on a Course in Miracles workshop here. And it took me to a moment that I believed my mother was being hurt, beaten up by my dad. And as I did the breath work and I was watching the scene, it made me realize there's only love here. And it was all an illusion, that it hadn't happened how it happened in my mind. And that was like quite a wow moment. Yeah. It's nice to experience it though, isn't it? Once you have that experience, you go, every time I reference back to it, I go, oh yes, I thought that drama was happening and it wasn't.
Yeah, and it's an experiential knowing that you can't really explain because you've had an experience. And so that's what he's leading us to with these words, to have your own experience, so you know that this is true, because then no one's taught it, you know it for yourself through your own experience. That's really what distinguishes a mystic from a theologian. You have the experience and you know from your own experience that it's true. And then your knowledge that's true knowledge. It's not book. No one's told you, because you can you could recite A Course in Miracles. You know, I know some people who do this. You can recite the teachings, but do you really know it experientially? And you can usually tell if someone doesn't know it experientially, then it's on kind of a shallow level. Yeah, they speak the words, but
how do you help someone that goes from that intellectual state into experiential?
Well, the course is really the as Helen Schuckman said, the path. You know, she said finally a spiritual path for intellectuals. It's designed for people who're starting there. Remember, her and Bill were highly intellectual, so he designed the course for intellectuals who kind of stuck in their heads, in their minds, to phrase it correctly, with all these false egoic beliefs, and he's designed it to help them to undo that. So. They need just to be willing to practice. You know, the way to undo the mind and the intellect is practice, spiritual practice. So you practice these lessons, you do the breath breaks, you do the meditations, and every time you do that, you invite an experience to come in, and you just never know what experience is going to arise. So meditation is key. We're doing the meditative practice alongside the mind training. I've seen that people who just kind of read the course and they don't do any meditation and any kind of anything else, just like a straight reading of the course on an intellectual level, often struggle because there's no change of state. They're just reading it. They sit down, they read it. There's no kind of meditative state they go into. Maybe to an extent, if you read it, I suppose it does put you into a somewhat altered state. But what he's asking us to do here, really, with his workbook particularly, is a meditation practice. Getting us to develop a practice where we go deeper into our minds using these lessons and connect with Source. So the workbook is really guided meditation. In my view, anyway. That's other teachers might think differently. They might think it's more mind training, but it's guided meditation and then shorter meditation. So longer meditations, shorter meditations, to help you to really internalize these ideas and actually start to really experience them. Which is why I've developed meditations and breath breaks for each day, because that's the obvious thing to do, isn't it? Make it into a meditative practice. So you don't have to read it. You can listen and you guide it into an altered state when you do that. It just facilitates the mind training that he's trying to get you to do through the practice. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. He's just saying there's one idea. Just copy two of these. That one. Okay, so if you want to read, wait, not that one, it's document 1. Okay, so if you want to read number 4.
In this one thought is all the past undone, the present saved, to quietly extend into a timeless future. If you are as God created you, then there has been no separation of your mind from his, no split between your mind and other minds, and only unity within your own.
Okay, and then there's the translation.
Okay, shall I read it?
Mm-hmm.
In this one thought is all the past undone, the present saved, to quietly extend into a timeless future. If you are as pure formless awareness of perfect love created you, then there has been no separation of your mind from its, no split between your mind and other minds, and only unity within your own.
Okay, so that's extended. Extended. And anything else? No, I think it even uses present safe to quietly extend into a timeless future. So love extends into your mind and then extends quietly into a timeless future. So he's talking about the flow there and the now. There's no sense of time. It's just a timeless future. You're in the ever-present moment, in the eternal now. And this is the way you live your life.
Mm.
And if you really are just this presence, then there has been no separation of your mind from its mind. No split between your mind and other minds, and only unity within your own.
Mm.
Does that all make sense to you? So
Yeah.
oneness is oneness is oneness.
Yeah.
You can't have any separation in oneness, otherwise it's not perfect oneness.
Mm.
So this is the nature of a pure non-dual teaching, which is what Course in Miracles is. Oneness is oneness is oneness. That's all it is. And so there can be no separation in perfect oneness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only unity within your own is lovely. Thinking about having a unified one mind is lovely.
Mm.
Mm.
We could change mind. What do you think? Do you think mind works, or should we change it to awareness?
No,
There'd be no separation of your awareness from its awareness. No split between your awareness and other awarenesses. Only unity within your own.
Yeah, awareness, I think, is really good.
Okay. No separation of your awareness from its awareness. So there's only one awareness. You are that awareness. This is the whole teaching.
Mm.
How can you be separate from the awareness that you are? It's not really possible. The ego's delusion is that it is possible. And they split between your awareness and maybe just the awareness of other minds. How about that? Happy with that? The awareness of other minds.
Is it awareness of other minds, or is it a belief in other minds?
I think if we're going to be consistent, we need to use awareness, because we used it for translating mind there. So
Okay.
between your mind, no split between your awareness and the awareness of other minds. So they have the same awareness as you, and that belief comes into that, because if I have another awareness, I must believe something else. But we're talking about the fundamental, this is a fundamental consciousness, if you like. It's another word for it. But the Course uses consciousness to denote the domain of separation, so we're not going to use that word. But in New Age teaching, they'd call it consciousness, your consciousness and the consciousness of other minds. I think awareness is a better term.
Okay.
Between your awareness and the awareness of other minds, because it's one mind. There's only one awareness. In truth, one pure formless awareness of perfect love that is behind every mind. And there can really be no split. Okay, happy with that? Do you want to read it from the top, and let's see if it makes sense?
In this one thought is all the past undone, the present saved to quietly extend into a timeless future. If you are as pure, formless awareness of perfect love extended you, then there has been no separation of your awareness from its awareness, No split between your awareness and the awareness of other minds, and only unity within your own. Yeah, it's lovely.
That works.
Yeah, it feels peaceful.
And in a year's time, you'll come back to say, "Oh, well, I did that translation."
Yeah.
and then it's all there, which is nice. So
You're going to publish it as a book?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, actually. I think it's going to be part of the program. I think you're gonna have to do the program to get it, because it's sequential. Danger of publishing it as a book. Well, there is no copyright. I know that, so I could. But then people take it and they don't necessarily get the full value from it. I'll see. I need to take guidance. Let me finish it first. But the idea is chunking it down like this, really allows you to work with it well. And too often, if it's published as a book, people get the book. And what happens with a lot of Course in Miracles books, they sit on a bookshelf and they never get used. They never get read. So, in fact, probably the majority, probably 90% of course books are not read.
Yeah.
Okay. So the healing power. So happy with number 4.
Oh, 4. Yeah. Okay.
Moving on to number 5. The
Ready?
healing power.
The healing power of today's idea is limitless. It is the birthright of all miracles. The great restorer, the birthplace. What did I say?
Birthright.
All right. It is the birthplace of all miracles, the great restorer of the truth to the awareness of the world. Practice today's idea with gratitude. This is the truth that comes to set you free. This is the truth that God has promised you. This is the word in which all sorrow ends.
Okay. So I'm going to do the translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just get an alternative in there.
Okay, so the healing power of today's idea is limitless. It is the birthplace of all miracles, the great restorer of the truth to the awareness of the world. Practice today's idea with gratitude. This is the truth that comes to set you free. This is the truth that pure formless awareness of perfect love has promised you. This is the word in which all sorrow ends. Yeah. That flows. Yeah.
Thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the word limitless. I like the idea of it's like never ending. And the miracles, I every time the miracles comes up, I go, gosh, I so didn't understand miracles before. I so get it a lot better now.
We need to actually I need to translate that. That's corrections. Good point there. Have we had miracles? I don't think so. Is this the first time we've had miracles?
Can't remember. First time I commented on it, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we've had miracles so far in this lesson. So the miracle is the correction. It's the birthplace of all correction. So it's a shift in your mindset. Change in perception, change in attitude, change in perception, and then this restores the truth to our awareness, and that's the catalyst for any external miracles.
Yeah, and it's the truth that sets you free. It's beautiful, isn't it?
As he, quoting from the book, his teaching in the Bible. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, or the truth shall make you free, depending on which version of the Bible you read. So he's referring back to some of his original teachings that came through in the New Testament. This is the truth that comes to set you free. So rather than the distorted truth of, well, Jesus is going to save you. He's the only Son of God. He died for your sins on the cross. Just believe in him and you'll be saved. That's just ridiculous. He's saying, no, this is actually the truth that I taught. That you are as God created you. You are as this Father or the Source created or extended you, and nothing else is true. That's the only truth about you. That's what he taught, and that's what every master has taught throughout the ages. Same, very simple truth. This is it. There's one truth. There's not multiple versions of the truth. There's not your version of the truth and my version of the truth. Your God, my God. It's one presence that unites us all. That's the ultimate source of your mind, your true awareness, your pure formless awareness of this perfect love. And those words are just pointers. They just point you into hopefully an experience of it, of this presence. And in this presence, so he says this is the word capitalized. So this teaching will lead you to a state of mind which all sorrow ends. There's no sorrow in pure formless awareness of perfect love. Okay?
Yeah, just
What's
experience.
on that question?
No, I was just feeling into it. It feels really good.
Hmm.
It's like it's the end to all the suffering. Just feeling into that love. And knowing there's just no space there for anything else.
Yeah, and that's the way out. You're saying it's so simple. You're never going to change it on the level of form. You're trying to change the world, the externals. Well, we've been doing this for a very long time. This is the ego's game. It puts you out of flow. It puts you in time. Just change your mind. Change your mind about it. And right now, love is available. Always has been. So just accept it. And this is true. This is the reality. This is what you want. And you're done. Could it be that simple? If you really fully accept it, you might still have some years to live out in the body, but your mind is healed. Nothing can disturb you if you really accept this idea fully. So practice, practice, practice makes perfect. All right. So happy with number 5.
Yeah.
Number 6. Number 7. Why can I not save this? I don't know. Very strange. Doesn't seem to want to let me go down. Get it from that way. For whatever reason. Okay. 10. Okay. So that's the alternative. Okay, so if you like, because we're going to practice now, shall I just guide you through this in a meditation?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
How does that sound?
Yeah.
Okay, so just making yourself comfortable. Sitting feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. Start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Blowing the stomach up like a balloon. Clenching the sphincter muscle so you lock the energy in. Pull the energy up the spine. into the heart center. Draw it up into the crown of your head, just pausing at the top of the inhale. So maximal inhale breath. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts, notice any emotions, any sensations going on. And remind yourself that I am as God or pure formless awareness of perfect love created me, extended me. Its son or its extension can suffer nothing. I am as pure formless awareness of perfect love extended me. Its extension cannot suffer. I am its extension. Just breathe in again and feel this power flowing into you. As a statement of your true identity. I am the extension of pure formless awareness, of perfect love. I am an extension of perfect love itself. Just if you notice anything that's blocking that extension, any kind of negative thoughts, limited thought, contracted thought and emotion, just observe it. It feels resisting, it's sticky, difficult. The mind is turbulated. Just notice that. And so you're going to decide just to blow it all away with the breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. So exhale, blowing it all away, the breeze of your breath. Letting it all go like a dark cloud, leaving you to the nothingness that it really is. Move the stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And you just rest here. Rest in the peace and the stillness. Peace that passes all understanding, it's been called. Try to discover in your mind the self, who is the holy extension of pure formless awareness. Perfect love. Have a sense of presence, deep presence, holy presence arising in you. Breathe it in, going into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body. Every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the presence, fused with the presence of love. And then you just surrender to that presence. nowhere else to go. And there's nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. Just really relax and be still. Surrender into this deep presence. You are as God created you, or love extended you. Honor yourself. That graven images you made to be the Son of God or extension of love. Instead of what He is, be. Worship not today. Do not give them value in your mind, Yeshua is saying. Deep in your mind, the Holy Christ, the One Self. One Self in you is waiting for acknowledgement as you. So acknowledge it now. Say, I am one self, united with my Creator. There's nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to do. Seek this presence, this one self, only, and find it now. It will be your savior from all idols you've made. Idols are just false ideas, false beliefs. When you find this presence, this one self, you will understand how worthless are your idols. How false the images which you believed were you. Today we make a great advance to truth by letting idols go, false beliefs go, opening our hands, opening yourself up, your mind, sinking inward, deeper and deeper with each breath. Keep watching your breath, observing the breath flowing in and out through your nostrils. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. And if any thoughts arise, seeing you disturb this deep peace of the one self, the Christ that you are. Just observe the thoughts, the emotions, the body sensations. And Remind yourself, I am as God created me, or love extended me. I am its extension, now and forever. And I can suffer nothing. And then just let go of those thoughts. And so just gently come back, this very deep state, deep connected state, awareness into awareness of the body and the breath, and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile, scan your mind again. Notice any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on. If there's anything that's out of flow that feels unpleasant, then just say, I am still as God created me. I'm still as love extended me. I can suffer nothing because I am the extension of perfect love. And exhale, have a sense of releasing any negative energy, just letting it go into the nothingness that it really is. So you just exhale, have a sense of blowing all of that darkness, limited awareness away with the breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. Going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And you just rest in the peace and stillness. The bottom of the exhale, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. As you breathe in again, notice any smell in your nose. Noticing all the subtle sensations of the body in this very calm and surrendered way. So connect with this deep peace and stillness. A gap between breaths, gap between words. Just a portal to infinity and eternity. Go there, take you in to this timeless state, the presence. This is the Tao, this is the oneness that permeates, underlies everything, that permeates through to your mind, that shows up in the flow of life, surrendered action. Wu Wei, whatever you want to call it. So, breathing in again, notice the smell in your nose, notice any taste in your mouth, notice what you're hearing, surrounding environment, but without any judgment. Just observe these subtle sensations of the breath, the body, and anchor this deep state of awareness, this pure formless awareness of perfect love. If you've connected with it quite deeply in your awareness, so you carry it with you for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So it is said and so it is done. And so on the count of 3, you now open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around. Notice even while your most dominant sense for most people is the visual sense, while that's engaging, you're looking around the room, you're observing the objects in the room around you. This awareness is still there. It hasn't gone away. It's still very much there. Pure formless awareness of perfect love. Still there in your mind, guiding you. And it will do so if you allow it to. This is the flow state we talked about earlier. So allow this awareness to guide you in your thoughts, your words, your actions. And then you are being done through rather than being the doer in time. So that's what I wish for you, that you allow this awareness to guide you for the rest of the afternoon, the rest of the evening. And I hope to see you a bit later, but if not this evening, then tomorrow. I've got, let me just